Alright guys and gals, I've always loved the arcade coin-op Zaxxon, and I've always been gutted that the Amstrad CPC never got an official arcade conversion of it. So I've been searching over the years for a decent clone of it on the Amstrad, and I think I might have, at last, found one in a game called Zaxx from a company called Chip. More on that shortly, because whilst we're talking, we've got the arcade coin-op original rolling here, and we're going to do one short loop just to show you everything that it had to offer and to see how Zaxx will compare to it later on. Now, you control your ship with flight controls, so you pull back on the flight stick to pull the ship up and push up to bank down, and you have a handy altitude meter on the left hand side of the screen to help you. You can also fire your laser at walls and obstacles to help gauge how high you actually are. That's a top tip. You can also use your shadow under your ship on the floor to help place where you are and avoid missiles being launched up your bum. There's red barrels to shoot to replenish your constantly draining fuel supply, and enemy planes to shoot, some still on the runway, but if you get all 20 of them before the end of a loop, you get a nice bonus. But essentially, there's two fortresses to fly through with a space section in between before you fight off against the giant robot Zaxxon at the end, and then you just repeat forever, really, with very little changes. It is very early arcade days in 1982 after all, and it was all about high score chasing and perseverance. So Zaxxon is one of the first shoot 'em ups to take place in an isometric perspective, which is also known as axonometric projection, which is where the name of the game comes from. Axono, Axon, Zaxxon. So, released by Sega in early 1982, it was one of the highest selling coin-ops of the year and a massive success, and apparently one of the first machines to be advertised on television. And of course, it received loads of ports to the Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 8-bit range, the Apple II, ColecoVision, ColecoVision, Commodore 64, Intellivision, MSX, PC, Sega SG-1000, TRS-80 and the good old ZX Spectrum, but of course, sadly no Amstrad port. But Zaxxon really stood out at the time in all its Technicolor isometric blasting glory and left a lasting memory, going on to inspire countless clones that of course we'll encounter on the Amstrad. The most notable clone being the absolutely dreadful Leviathan from English Software, just unplayable garbage sadly. Then there's a little heard of Goliath from Rainbow Production, a nice looking French game which sadly finds your ship stuck to the floor, but does find you switching to an interesting first person perspective for a shoot 'em up level. Some people mention Sigma 7 from Durrell as being a bit Zaxxon-y, possibly due to its isometric shoot 'em up-iness. Lastly, I suppose we should give a mention to Hostile All-Terrain Encounter, or HATE for short from Gremlin and Vortex, which is slightly more inspired by Zaxxon than it is cloning it. Dakota Costa Panay's earlier games like Highway Encounter were very similar too. Anyway, but was there ever an official conversion and port of Zaxxon ever planned for the Amstrad? Well, yes, there was, is the answer, and from Amstrad themselves no less, via their Amsoft label. And it was listed in Amsoft's Winter 1985-86 software catalogue. But don't get excited at the screenshots there like I did initially. Look closely and it says Commodore screenshots. Zaxxon was still reported as going to be released on the Amstrad Gold label in the Amstrad Computer User magazine in the news section of the July 1987 issue 32 with a picture of its box art. There it is. Wow. And with other games there. Look at that. Priced at $9.95 on tape and $11.95 on disc, along with the never released Spy Hunter and a triple gold one compilation of Buck Rogers, Congo Bongo and Up and Down. Again, all Sega coin ops that I would have loved to a scene on the Amstrad, and I believe this was a collaboration with US Gold at the time, and who knows what went wrong there. But I believe Amstrad's foray with Amsoft just petered out, and they lost all confidence in Amsoft, and Amstrad had moved on into the PC market, and Amsoft was like an afterthought, relegated to a small dusty office, and they kind of gave up on the whole Amsoft project, sadly, by 1986-87 time. So alas, there was no Zaxxon, no Spy Hunter, and no compilation with Buck Rogers, Congo Bongo and Up and Down. Anyway, so on to today's main feature, Zaxx from Chip, released in 1986. And here's the box art in all its glory, and it leaves no doubt in your mind as to what game this is cloning. It's very clearly Zaxxon. Even the logo is very Zaxxon-y. Wow. So anyway, let's get this booted up and running. You'll see our loading screen appear very quickly, so yeah, keep your eyes open. It's not much to look at though. It's a very small game to load up. There you go, Zaxx by Carlo Perconti. You see the points you can score for the items there. And we'll just get straight into this. We'll come back and talk about the coder very shortly. It's all in French, of course. There is no UK English language version, so this was only released in France. And off we go. And this is very, very much Zaxxon there. And look, you got the wall just like in Zaxxon, just at the start there. And the barrels are in green there if you want to get fuel. You've got the turret shooting you there. And yeah, this is basically Zaxxon on the Amstrad. Not the same, not exactly the same layout as the arcade version, but it's pretty much Zaxxon. There you go. You've got the missiles launching from the floor there as well. And yeah, it's not bad. It's not running at a too bad a frame rate either. And you've even got the electric gates there. But the fortress level is quite fairly short, and now we're in the sort of the mid-space section. Now this is where things yeah, a little bit disappointing, because you can't gauge the height you need to be to shoot the other ships here. Now on the arcade version, when, it gave you a little indicator to know when you're at the same height level as another ship on the same I don't know, same horizontal plane as you. You got a little target appear in front of your ship to indicate, and a buzzer noise to indicate you were lined up with the ship in front of you, and to know that you can actually shoot. Oh, I actually managed to hit one there. On Zaxx, unfortunately, you get no such indicator, which is a shame. Yeah, of course, you're in space here, so you can't judge it from the shadows on the floor. Not that you'd be able to know that anyway. So, yeah, on the arcade version, you'd have a little little target appear just in front of your ship, and you'd have an audible like buzzer noise, like a beep, to indicate you were lined up with your target. Unfortunately, Zaxx doesn't do that, so that's a glaring omission, which makes this rather long space sequence here rather annoying and pointless, unfortunately. So you just have to sort of guess and hope. Now, if you look at your altitude meter on the left there, if you move just above like the third block, so like around about the fourth block, maybe you might be able to hit something around about that fourth block level. Anyway, for like these sort of flying UFO things, which is not present in the arcade version, this is a whole new section. So at least Zaxx adds something new to the game. Just stay as low as you can, which is like the third block up on the altitude meter. You can't go any lower than that third block on there, on the blue blocks there, on the far left. Just stay as low as you can, line up and hit the fire button. And actually, they're fairly easy to dispatch. Just don't hold down the fire button. Just wait, line up, and then hit the fire button. They only fire one shot at a time, so wait until they fired their shot, move out the way, go back, then line up, and then shoot. And it's nice that Zaxx has added in this whole new section, which is kind of cool. So nice, bright and colourful. Making use of the Amstrad's colour palette here. Nice use of the purples and blues. The ship's on your ship is a nice red and yellow kind of colour and design. The sprites are okay. It's a little bit blocky. Some of the designs maybe could have been tidied up a little bit. You got the standard white noise for your plane, which is okay. Nice shooty sounds for the lasers and the blasts. Okay, explosion noises. Would have been nice to have maybe some music in the background, but then Zaxxon didn't have any tunes either. And it kind of moves about and plays okay. It's a little bit on the slow side, but then again, so was Zaxxon. My only disappointment is like the fire rate. When you're shooting your laser, you can only shoot one laser blast at a time. On Zaxxon, you can fire multiple shots at a time, which makes things a little bit frustrating. It'd be nice to be able to blast away several shots at a time. No, Zaxx only allows you to fire one shot at a time, which makes things a little bit. That's kind of a big disappointment, as well as not being able to know when you're lined up with these planes here. And of course, you're not able to shoot some of these planes on a runway like you can on Zaxxon. And perhaps these sort of mid-space sections come at you rather too quickly, and then probably take a little bit too long to get through as well. Other than that, this is pretty good fun. And again, use shooting against the wall there to judge, like, lining up where the gaps in the wall are. You got the shadow under your plane there to judge your positioning, which is cool. I'm glad they've added that in there. And look at that, there's the laser gates there as well. So yeah, this is the most accurate clone of Zaxxon I found on the Amstrad. So if you're looking for Zaxxon on the Amstrad, you can't go much further wrong than Zaxx here. And this is a pretty good version of Zaxxon. So there you go. I'm pretty happy I found this. So who made this then? Well, the coder was a guy called Carlo Perconti. And I think he's done a really good job here. I think he was on duty for both the coding, graphics and sound effects. Can't find anyone else listed and doing anything else on the game here. So well done, Carlo. Brilliant stuff. His other Amstrad games were Asterix and the Magic Cauldron for Melbourne House. I believe that was a pretty good game. He also did Buggy 2 for Chip. Domain Holocaust for Chip. Never heard of that one. Devil's Castle for Chip. Chip, which I think is a Galaga clone. Might have to check that one out. He also did MLM 3D for Chip. Wow. Pengy for Chip, which I assume is a Pengo clone. Grand Prix Rally 2 for Chip, which is also released by Amsoft, and I really like that game actually. I've done a long playing review of that one. That's a fun little early racer. And there's a game called Volleyball for Chip. So yeah. Do you know what? I might have to check out some more of these games by Chip. I mean, the company Chip released absolutely loads of games between 1986 and 1988, usually with really nice, colourful graphics. And they were a French company that never did any UK releases or English language versions apart from that Grand Prix Rally 2 that Amsoft got their grubby mitts on. I really don't know much about them. And there's very little to find about them on the internet. Certainly not a Wikipedia entry or anything like that. I'd certainly like to do a dive into them a little bit more at some point, because I think they might have a few hidden gems here and there. Oh, here we go. We're on to another space section. Unlike Zaxxon, I think this has about sort of three fortress areas, unlike Zaxxon, which has two, and then it loops. So you do a fortress space section, and then the fortress of the Zaxxon robot on Zaxxon. Zaxx has 3 fortresses before you fight the robot Zaxx, which we'll be seeing very shortly after this space section, I believe. And that's where we will call it on the long play here. We won't keep looping it. It doesn't change up, unfortunately. Okay, should be coming up to the robot Zaxx very shortly, I think, here. some UFOs to blast first, though. And this is actually quite good fun. The only thing that negates the fun a little bit is I wish you could just fire more than one shot at a time. That's a shame. And I wish the fortresses were a little bit more action-packed and a little bit more imaginative design on them like the Zaxxon ones had. But never mind. Okay, I think this is where the big robot appears. Should be anyway, if my memory's correct. Here it is, the robot Zaxx! Ah! He should be firing missiles at you just like the Zaxxon one does. There you go. And as you hit him, he actually gets knocked backwards as well. And he takes a lot more hits to kill than the Zaxxon one. Here we go, the final boss battle. It's a little bit more tougher actually, and our fuel's getting quite low. Relatively low anyway. Yay! There you go. Bravo! Vous avez détruit le robot Zaxx. We have defeated the robot Zaxx there. And now the game loop. So I'll just like destroy myself a few times and we'll get to the high score table. So there you go. That was Zaxx. Actually a really decent clone of Zaxxon. And I really quite enjoyed that. And I'm glad we've got a fairly decent version of Zaxxon on the Amstrad. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I think overall, on balance, I think I'll give that a 7 out of 10. And I think, maybe a 7.5. No, I'll change my mind. I'm going to give that a 7.5 out of 10. So I'll give that a 75% score. So what do you think to that, boys and girls? Let me know in the comments what you would give that out of 10 or a percentage score. And yeah. Anything else to mention? I'm not sure. Would anyone coders out there want to give a go at coding their own version of Zaxxon on the Amstrad? Kind of an unofficial proper port of Zaxxon. I would love to see that on the Amstrad. But yeah. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, let me know in the comments below. We've got a slightly different style with the long plane review today. We had a look at the arcade version, did a whole run through of a loop. We looked at some other games, other clones of Zaxxon first before we actually got to the long plane review. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, so hopefully you enjoyed that. So yeah, that was Zaxx on the Amstrad. Yeah, if you got anything else to mention. So thank you everyone for your support. And if you like to suggest and request videos from me in the future, my patrons and members of the Am Squad have the ability to do that, so do consider supporting me on Patreon and joining the Am Squad if you feel like you'd like to do that. So thank you very much for watching, boys and girls, and cheers everyone, and see you all again soon. Thank you and goodbye. Bye. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.